Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we're decoding how founders, leaders, and execs are navigating AI by working smarter, implementing systems, automation, and AI solutions. So if you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. And my guest today is Manuel Harnisch from Fossa. Manuel, it's great to have you.
Great. Thanks, Brent. Love to be here.
Yeah. So, Manuel, let's jump right in. I always start with the leader's journey. So talk to us about kind of your background leading up to about 2.5 years ago when you jumped in and started working at Fossa.
Yeah, good. It's been a journey. I've been in tech and startups for basically my whole career. I did my first startup as sort of the 11th employee back in 2008. It was a great time to join the startup right before the global financial crisis.
Perfect timing, right?
Right. But we were super scrappy at the time. Spent almost 9 years there and did everything from customer support in the early days to post-sales engineering. Eventually became a pre-sales engineer, a solution architect, which was kind of like the quarterback for all the SEs. And then towards the end of my time there in 2014, they tapped me on the shoulder and said, would you like to lead this team that's going to be tasked with a really hard problem, which is upgrading our customers? Nobody wanted to go through that pain. And I'm like, sure, I've done almost everything here, and why not? And so that's when I got my first sort of official leadership role, and got a team of 4 initially and built that out to 15. Spent about a year doing that, and then also was handed the support team for North America. Had that for about another year or so, and then got recruited into another company. At that time it was called Kentic. They're still around, doing really well. Doing much the same things as the original startup was doing, Sev1, but we're doing it in a SaaS first manner, because Sev1 was still on-prem, deployed in the data center.
Yep.
So I got introduced by a mutual customer, thought that was really interesting. They needed somebody to kind of build out the initial customer success and technical post-sales function, and joined them, spent almost 4 years there, built a team, and really helped them grow from about 6 million in revenue when I joined to well over 20, and they're well on their way to 100 million in revenue at this point. So I did that for 4 years, and then this little thing called COVID happened in 2020. I got a call from somebody at another startup about October of that year, and they were looking for somebody to come in and help them with their CS function, which was pretty nascent. That was a detour. It was a data company, actually. So if you think of businesses like Clearbit and Apollo and all these firms that actually sell finished goods around data, we were the company that was supplying a lot of the underlying data. So that company was called People Data Labs. Spent about a year and a half there.
I know them well.
What's that?
I know them well. People Data Labs, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But I decided that after about a year and a half of taking that detour, I wanted to go back into pure SaaS and really spend my time there, and got to talking to Kevin Wang, our founder here at Fossa. Things made sense, and I decided to join here in October of 2022. So it's been a wild ride, but a good one.
Yeah, well, and that's awesome. And what's amazing is a month later, ChatGPT launched, right? Changed your whole life. So your timing, right, from the financial crisis move to this one and hitting you've been pretty good timing wise, huh?
Yeah, it was that was definitely a paradigm shift. I think the financial crisis was a paradigm shift. In a lot of ways, funding was obviously a thing, kind of like unlimited funding for a number of years, and then that kind of continued, and then we saw that whole thing kind of fall off a cliff in 2022 and 2023 as well. And I think it kind of coincided with the launch of AI. It might have been coincidence as well.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so that leads us up to Fossa. So talk to us about Fossa and kind of your last couple of years, and then kind of where it's going.
Yeah, so Fossa at a very high level is a compliance and vulnerability platform, primarily deploys a SaaS. You scan your software projects with the tool, and it tells you about what licenses you're utilizing, whether directly or through third-party sort of transiency. And it also identifies, known vulnerabilities in your code base, and then, brings all that back to you in a nice UI. Or obviously, if you're a developer, you can integrate it via the API into various other build systems that you already have. So we solve the compliance as well as the vulnerability side of software development. In a modern SaaS platform. When I joined, we were right around 70 people, and we've become a lot more efficient when it comes to headcount since then. Which some people might say that's not great, right? You're actually like reducing headcount while growing. But if you think about it, a startup that can do that and still scale revenue,
growing the top line, reducing the bottom line, that's a private equity person's dream, right?
Yes. And so we've accomplished and achieved something that not a lot of companies can do at this point, which has become profitable, and it's in large part because of the advent of AI and some of the efficiencies that we were able to get, not just by modernizing our own platform, but also because we're able to consolidate roles and bring in tooling that help augment the people that we do have. And we've been able to do that largely with voluntary attrition. We did have some involuntary throughout, but largely it's been voluntary, which is good. Obviously, we want to take care of our people. So that's been the journey. I joined to lead customer success in the last 6 months or so. That has changed over to technical services. Though we actually no longer have a traditional CS function, and that's in large part because of the efficiencies that we were able to realize. And we're really doubling down on the technical enablement of our prospects and customers. So I own the pre and post sales part of technical services at this point.
That's amazing. So just walk us through a couple of examples of how you drove that efficiency, because I think a lot of people would be interested, right? As we were talking before the podcast, right, Manuel, is that as I say this, again, you'll hear my mantras across the podcast is AI are not to replace people right now. They're digital coworkers. They're meant to empower great employees or good employees to be 5 to 10 or 2 to 10x better, right? By driving out the mundane things in their jobs. And then the other thing that we say is that AI is not IT. That's what you and I were talking about. AI is a strategy that needs to be done by every single department within a company, and it needs to be a top-down strategy. So I say all that to have you kind of walk us through some of your examples of how you guys drove some of that efficiency and how your roles changed because of it.
Yeah. So I'll mention a couple really concrete ones. There's lots of little things obviously that happen as well, and we're very much a bottoms-up kind of company, meaning that anybody can come up with an idea and they can go find a solution, and if it makes sense, we'll pay for it if it's a reasonable cost. So a couple of things specifically around just visibility into what's going on in customers. Obviously, we don't have a huge team, but we have a team that is big enough where talking one-to-one with everybody becomes problematic. How do you know how your customers are feeling? Obviously, we got Gong, right? That sort of records conversations and so forth. But there's lots of other touch points, right? People interact with us through the ticketing system. They interact via email. We have some customers that have Slack channels with us, others that have Teams. Teams is a whole other ball of wax. But
that's a whole other animal.
Man, the amount of time I've wasted on Teams administration, but I digress.
Yeah.
But there's all these different ways of integrating, conversations basically. And so how do you know, big picture, what's going on in the customer? Did a little bit of research around that, and there is a couple of, sort of AI-powered startups in that space. One that we've been working with for about a year now. It's called Back Engine. And what Back Engine does is it integrates with things like Slack. It integrates with Google Mail, which is what we use for corporate mail via API. It integrates with Gong and Zoom. It basically pulls in all the various transcripts and analyzes them for various different things like growth signals, risk signals, product feedback, and so forth. And so it gives you this high-level, account-based overview of where we're at and how things are going with a given account. And it lets you then drill in from there. So there are ways to get signals out of that, saying hey, this is something you should pay attention to, or this is, this is important, but low effort, and so forth. So that is definitely one that's given us, the ability to not have to have internal QBRs, and really just giving everybody access.
Huge. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about it like it's everyday thing because you're doing it. But do you know how many companies and clients that I have right now that need that? Right? Yeah, I try to say that that's 100% a phenomenal use case.
Yeah. Really excited about that. And I got to know the founder really well at this point. They're still a tiny company, but they're growing really rapidly, and super exciting space. Another one is obviously around, customer experience when it comes to support. So, I do have a small support team, small like mighty, 2 folks that do our customer support. We're not just an enterprise B2B company, so we sell primarily to large enterprises, but we have a good portion of self-serve paid customers that obviously expect support as well. Plus, we have a free tier. Given that we're playing in open source, we want to give back to the community. So lots of people reach out to us in various ways. And so if you think about support, there's a number of different repetitive tasks that happen that AI can easily handle. So we did a little research. Actually, it started right around this time last year as well. We were a Zendesk customer, at that point, and we're looking at their AI and what capabilities they had, plus a couple other vendors. Over the course of the summer, it became clear that there is a new upstart called DevRev that is built from the ground up as an AI first company. So the entire platform is built with the intention of pulling it all together and being able to ask it questions about hey, how is this customer doing? When have we seen this issue before? Right? What are all the related issues? How did we solve this the last time? And then can you actually answer these questions based on our knowledge base for the customer? And so we made the decision in mid last year to basically switch over from Zendesk to DevRev. And we've been able to do not only that, but we've also been able to allow us to consolidate some headcount as a result of that. So that platform is effectively already paid for itself a couple times over. And we're still only scratching the surface in terms of what it can do.
It can do, right?
Yeah. Another huge AI accelerant.
Right. And what you're hitting on, Manuel, is kind of, I had this conversation yesterday with someone about AI use cases and the measuring the impact before you choose a solution, right? Or before you even choose to solve it, right? And what you're hitting on is exactly the type of use cases that you should go after. And again, every department's different, but where your big pain points are, right? If you really sit down for a day or two and really outline where they are, then you know that. And then when you start to evaluate your solutions, there's a big difference between a platform that has been around that just kind of puts AI as a feature versus one that is 100% AI first and centric, right? And I think what you're talking about between Zendesk and DevRev is a prime example. And I think that, for anyone watching this, those are the kind of things that you need to evaluate when you're making these types of decisions, because it really can move the needle, right?
Yeah, in a really big way. Yeah, it's funny because we did do a trial of, Zendesk AI, and it was super clear that it was a bolt-on. Now, I'm sure it's gotten better since then. And the huge company, I think they have lots of resources and they will get a lot better. But it was really, really clear that, it wasn't, an AI first or, even built for AI type of model. It was like, hey, let's throw an LLM at this and see what happens. And that's not what you want when you're trying to move really fast.
Yeah. And this is the kind of reallocation of time, effort, and resources, right? And dollars that can empower a mid-market company, right? Like yourselves, that can move, that enables you to move so much faster, but also enables you to open up new doors, as we were talking about before the podcast, right? Because, going from 70 to 20, but being more efficient and growing top line revenue is huge. Now you can start to say, hey, where can we reallocate those resources and those dollars to expand our offerings, right? And to me, that's the game. That's exactly what you're trying to do. So talk to us about how you think a Fossa can expand or where you guys are looking to.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're seeing in the market is this platformization of what we do, right? There's a couple other vendors and competitors in this space, and a lot of them have bigger platforms. And I think it's become very clear to us that our customers are pushing us into the same direction. They're like, what more can you solve for me sort of at the same price point, or maybe even cheaper? It's like do more for less. That's really become apparent in the last year and a half. And so, we we've heeded that call, and that's exactly the direction that we're moving in. Now, how do we get there? Right? Like, we're not going to be able to double our engineering headcount.
Right.
We're not looking to raise a huge round of funding, although we potentially could do that, but
Right.
that's not super efficient. So how do we get there? Well, our engineering team and also my team, we've gone out and we've kind of said, what can accelerate this? If you look at space, you can look at, I think Gemini has a model for this. You got Cursor, you got Windsurf. You have all of these sort of like AI-powered coding platforms that have become really, really top of the line in the last 6 months or so. I mean, they've been good for about a year.
Especially like Cursor's gained so much momentum and traction in the market. We hear about it all the time now. 6 months ago, I never even heard of it. Yeah,
exactly. And Vercel is another one.
Yeah,
our whole website, like our CEO rebuilt our entire website in a matter of 2 weeks, just through vibe coding and Vercel. Now there've been a couple tweaks since then and improvements, but that's unheard of in the old days. You had
unheard of. Right.
Webflow and these other tools, and they were good, but this is a whole nother level. And so that's what we've been really doubling down.
And what platform did you build it in?
Vercel.
Vercel, I got it.
V0 by Vercel. So we've really seen that accelerate things. And so we've also we've done an internal session on like how to do vibe coding. We have some people that are really interested in that on our engineering team, and like not just like how you do it, but like how you can make it as part of your workflow and how to use it efficiently without like burning tons of credits as well. So we're doing quite a bit of that, and we're trying to also empower more people in the company to basically do their own pull requests and public code. I have one person on my support team that very recently built an SBOM validator tool, which SBOMs is sort of a standardized format of software bill of materials, but they come in all different shapes and sizes, and a lot of them are terrible. Well, how do you know if you have a good one? Well, we built a validator tool, and this person isn't necessarily a coder by trade, and it was published like a week ago. So we now have somebody that's shipped a productized feature that's on our website that people can use and is adding value without having like deep coding experience or years of experience. So that's super cool. Yeah.
Really cool. And to me, that's kind of where people's jobs are evolving because of AI in a good way, right? They're empowered to see some of their ideas come to fruition and be validated, right? Because there's not that big thing where I got to go to the IT department, right, and see if someone's going to allow me to use a coder for my pet project. No, right? This is what I mean about innovation and how it can really spark a lot of things in non-IT departments. That excites me the most.
Yeah, 100%. Another great example. We obviously use Figma. I think everybody does in startups for a really long time. But it's hard to build actual working prototypes or click through prototypes in Figma unless you're really into it. You fast forward to Vercel and V0, you could build a clickable prototype in a matter of hours, right? That actually works, and you can show a customer or prospect hey, this is how we're thinking about this, and then you can take that prototype and actually ship it, right? Without too much more trouble. So
it's really cool.
Accelerant.
Yeah, we were using UiZard, but it's very similar. Totally get it. Yeah.
Yep. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and those kind of tools really can start, and it's changed. Private equity, whereas, people could build an MVP and take it to private equity now versus private equity, used to have to fund it, right? You get funding just to build your MVP, right? That's now, right. Like you said, you build a phenomenal website, or you could build a UI demo of your idea in a matter of days right now and take it there and get it validated. So very different times we're living in. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I got a little side project too that I'm doing, outside of my day-to-day job. I have a friend and we're thinking about actually building a company around this. And it's the entire platform that he's currently working on, would be AI assisted and AI built. He's a bit of a coder, right? But not that's not his day job. And so could be really interesting.
Yeah. We have a similar project on the side too, that we're validating the concept, and within a couple of weeks we'll have a prototype, and it's just that's the coolest part. And we have a data platform, right? And just to give you an idea, and so we follow a kind of similar blueprint what you said, and just building our prompts within ChatGPT, right? Just talking to it and then taking that over to, I forget the dev platform what we used, one of the standard ones, I can't remember which one, and it built the whole prototype to where it was 80% built out and functionable that we could hand it to the dev team from there, right? To do all the connecting. And that's just like unheard of, right? So that's the kind of things. And really, this is why, I don't know if you saw any of our past ones, but Mark Cuban came up with the mantra that AI will unlock more creativity than anything ever. And he said that's why your liberal arts majors are going to be the most sought after, right? Because it's unlocking all those other departments, right? It's not just the math and science tech guys, right? It's the who can get creative and use these tools to bring their idea to life. And I said, you know what? He's not all wrong. And you just kind of gave us 2 examples of it, Manuel. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think in the past, the barrier to entry to start a company was always like having the expertise to actually build your idea, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like you can have your idea and you can, vibe code your way to 80% of the way and launch it within, a reasonable time frame. Now, there are some caveats, right? One of the things I've found, the more you do this, the more latent security issues you sort of introduce as well. And the less enterprisey features kind of are there from launch, right? Like one of the things that nobody ever thinks about is RBAC, role-based access controls or role-based access controls and, what all that means. And I still think there's going to be a need for, human oversight and sort of like expertise. But being able to get started is going to be so much faster.
And that expertise, it's a lot lighter lift now, right? But you're exactly right. Once you build these solutions, they still have to go into someone's ecosystem, single sign-on, access control, security. That all still comes into play. But I think the ideation part of it, where you can get 80% of the way there, 75% of the way there, is huge shift forward. So
the learning is going to be accelerated.
Yes.
Meaning that you can A/B test and you can try new things very, very quickly. And if they don't work, you just move on, right? You didn't just waste 3 months on it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of brain power, right? So talk to us about what you're seeing in the industry in general, right, that you're in, and the impact AI is having. Because there's some people embracing it. Some people are, like you said, are bolting it on. And then there's other people that it's kind of an AI first. How would we reimagine how we do business?
Yeah. Good question. I think, for us specifically, I think an area that we're super excited about and we've seen a lot of customer interest and prospect interest is this idea that, you can use AI to analyze a lot of upgrades, meaning that, if you have a platform and, it's asking you to upgrade, say, the version of PHP because security issues or whatever, usually the answer to a security issue is upgrade to the latest version. Now, that's great in a vacuum, but then there's lots of things that depend on that, right? And analyzing that complexity, has always required humans, and that's why a lot of software doesn't get upgraded quickly. In fact, this goes all the way back to my experience at Step 1, where customers didn't want to take upgrades because it was painful. So what we're saying, and what we're seeing, and what we're building right now is actually the ability for an AI platform to analyze all those code changes and those merges, and to say with confidence, yep, I can get this, done automatically 95% of the way. And here are the 5% that you as a human would have to interact and correct on your own because, I can't quite get there. Our goal is to get that to 100% at some point. That's the goal. It's probably realistically about 99% of the way. And at that point, you could have a system that's always running the latest version, always upgraded, and therefore as secure as it can be, unless you have 0 days, obviously.
Right.
And being able to enable that. And we're seeing not just a lot of interest, but also we're seeing the ability to actually make that happen becoming better and better. But we're going to likely launch something called FossaBot in the next couple of months here that will very effectively enable exactly that. You say hey, here's what I have. FossaBot, take a look at it, and then make a recommendation. And then, if you're confident, go ahead and automatically actually do that upgrade for me. So that's a big part of what we're seeing, and hopefully we'll get us further to that platform push that was.
Love that. That's exciting. Really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we're pumped about it. We've done lots of internal demos. We've shown this to a lot of customers and prospects in our cab, and everybody's like, "Wow! When can I have this?"
Yeah. Yeah, that is really cool. Really, really cool. All right, so last question. I always say, tell me something you do as a leader, Manuel, with AI, ChatGPT, whatever, that makes you more productive that you think other people would find interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think personally, as I've gotten older, I've sort of found that like I always felt like my memory is perfect, and I'm terrible at like taking notes, right? I always felt like, oh, I can just remember that, and this was true up until about 32, and ever since then it's like gone downhill. It keeps going downhill. So one thing that I've been able to use AI for quite successfully and will continue to invest in is just note taking, and not just note taking like you're on a call, and obviously Gong does this and there's other tools, but like just for me personally, like taking in a whole conversation, like even this conversation right now is being transcribed by something called Granola. Granola is a small little AI startup. And it's basically building a transcript, and then afterward it's going to write me a summary, and they can do that not just for like recorded conversations, but really like I can even turn it on in the middle of the day and it's like, okay, here's a couple ideas that I have, put that out there, and I can tell it like, write me some prompts that I can then run against ChatGPT or some other thing based on follow-ups I want to do. And so it can intelligently do that. It's basically like a personal assistant with almost perfect memory. Previously, I experimented with something called Rewind. Rewind basically does a similar thing, but it takes your whole screen and records it and does perfect memory. But that's actually less of what I ultimately feel is necessary. It's more so the note-taking piece that I find the most interesting. So, that's a personal hack.
Yeah. I totally get it. So, Manuel, that one to me is one that I have heard from more leaders through my podcast than any other thing, the personal assistant, of how to do that the right way. And I have a list of 5 or 6 different solutions that people are trying. And I actually have a running email chain with a good friend of mine who's head of a family-owned VC company, private equity company. And he's been playing with each one, and I just asked him, like, Jim, all right, what's the latest one? Which one do you like? And so we're on like iteration 4, right? So whether it was Otter, Fireflies, they all went out the window, not the ones that he's looking for. And so I'm definitely going to have him try Granola, and because we're going to settle on, him and I decided we're going to take like 2 months, try them all, and settle on one. So Granola is a great one, because we all struggle exactly what you just, that problem that you're having, right? Take notes, do the follow-ups in the most concise and easy way to do it. And it's only going to get better, right? As we add these workflows, these AI agent workflows, to be able to do, 2 or 3 steps in that process, right? Like, hey, draft me the follow-up email. Don't send it, but draft it, right? And then I can tweak it, right? Yeah. Time saver stuff, right? So, no, that's great. I love that one. So thank you for sharing that. Manuel, it has been an absolute pleasure. We will definitely have to check in with you guys at Fossa in the next few months, or maybe 6 months down the road, and see how your new product lines are going, how FossaBot's taking shape, and we'll be rooting for you for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate the support, and definitely keep looking in the space.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it. I mean, this is what Future Proofed is all about, is sharing and collaborating with as many good, smart execs as we can. So thanks, Manuel, for spending some time with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Excellent. Well, guys, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof, where we say, future proof what matters in your business and automate the rest. Thanks. And we'll see you on the next episode.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.